You are tuning into the Street Cred podcast, the show laser focused on helping streetwear brand owners turn their passion into a career. I'm Elijah Delport. Now, you have to excuse me. I'm quite sick as of the time of recording this, and I sound a bit stuffed up. That's because I am, and so the remaining time on this podcast will probably sound like I have a blocked nose. But I'm here. Look, I'm here recording the show anyway because we got to get it done. But other than that, I'm spending most of my time resting. I'm just doing the essential things. And Mondays is for podcasts. So, look, I'm here. And look, I wanted to talk about a very important topic. And I think it's a very much big picture. I like to be practical in my podcast. I like to be practical in a lot of the content that I put out there. This one is going to be less practical. And it's going to be more of a mindset episode, if you will. And it's to do with social media. It's to do with culture. I'm going to be talking about the streetwear fashion industry as a whole, big picture, and community. And it's not so much about what it means to build community, rather than what I believe it takes, what kind of mindset is behind the greatest examples of businesses and streetwear brands that we have in our society at the moment, and the most beautiful forms of business, and what it actually means to be in this and be doing something, creating something that's worth creating. I think that's a reflection that I have often. It's like, well, at the end of the day, am I just doing this to make some money? Am I doing this to make a buck? Because if that is my reflection at the end of everything, man, like, I don't even know if I've created something that is worth creating or worth spending time on. If I make a lot of money, who cares if it hasn't made the world a better place? And I think today I'm talking to people that really do want to have something to do with making the world a better place, with making difference in the world. And so I think the greatest kind of brands that the reason I'm doing a lot of what I'm doing, and a lot of my goals are around helping brand owners build communities, right? I said at the beginning of this podcast, this show and everything I do is to help you turn your streetwear passion into a career. That's true. It's about increasing revenue, because that's the obstacle. However, I do believe going on deeper than that, the thing that is going to help brand owners do that is how we go about building communities. And it comes down to a very simple and humbling thing, and it's selflessness. And I don't think it's something that we talk enough about in the business world, because a lot of the time business is about getting it done. It's about making deals. It's about shaking hands. And sometimes there is a lot of ethical fading in business. I find it's people that convince themselves that it's okay to do business in particular ways over a period of time. We've gotten to this point in some ways, even like with areas in social media, where you have to stand back and consider, is this the right thing to be doing? Like, I often have to reflect when I'm working with brands and coaching brands, and we're talking about how to create more content, and we're talking about quantity of content. Like, it's a numbers game sometimes. A lot of times it's a numbers game. And in the context and metrics according to how social media works, those that win, those that get the likes and get the followers, are the ones that can play the numbers game, that can get the most volume out in the shortest amount of time. Because they learn the fast, they accelerate their progress, and on top of that, they give them more chances of virality. Sometimes I have to stand back and go, is this the right thing to be doing? Because big picture would say, what is the point of all of this social media content if it's not going to make people's lives better? And it reminds me, I saw a reel today, and it said, make content to serve. I think that's really important, and it comes back to this idea of selflessness, being selfless in your brand, and not just selling products to make a buck, but actually to build community and build positive communities. I absolutely love when I see brands that promote really great messages. Like there was one that I'm working with at the moment, Blues and Greens. I'm sure the owner won't mind that I drop the name. Blues and Greens is a brand all about mental health. And there's lots of brands out there like it, and they all do it in their own unique ways. But Blues and Greens and the founder behind it is really passionate about it. And often we have conversations, and he talks to me like, yeah, like it's great we see results, but at the end of the day, like I'm already successful because I've touched someone's life, or I've even made just one person's day a bit better. And to zoom in and look at those details is sometimes the big picture we need to keep going, and also the big picture that is important to have at the center and to continuously remind ourselves of, because that gives meaning to what we're doing. And at the end, when we look back on everything we've done in our life, you know, I don't want to be there at the end thinking to myself, what a waste of time. Great, I made $1 million, but what at the end of the day was that for? You know, did I just contribute to capitalism? Is that, is that it? Whereas really, it's the thing that I want to keep coming back to, and the brands that I want to work with, and the purpose of this podcast, the deeper purpose is I want to help brands form their communities of people that are going to help people that are going to help people that help people. I think that's a really beautiful picture. And in order to achieve something like that, we need people that are selfless, that are doing this not only for their own gain, but also for the benefit of others. So, yeah, that's my reflection today. And I think the results part of it are really important, because you cannot untangle and disconnect that. You can't. Because at the end of the day, if I say something like this, on the other side of this, you're going to be thinking, well, it's all good to be selfless. What's in it for me? We're selfish humans. I mean, I think at our core, we are selfish. We are selfish. But we have to draw on something outside ourselves to be able to access a humility that's not innately inside of us, but we do have access to. And if we do, I believe if we do search beyond ourselves, that we can have access to that humility, and that really helps us thrive. Like, I want to give an example. I don't often share this publicly, but I think it's very much relevant to this. I'm a Christian, and I go to church on Sundays. And at our church is a very strong community. It's a really beautiful space. We all have, and we share values, very similar values. And it's a space where we get to come together and do life together and journey and walk alongside each other. And something really cool that happened, and it comes back to the results part, right? So my church has a young adults ministry, and recently they had a clothing release for the young adults ministry, and it was something that I think it had like a Bible verse on it, and some inspirational words on it, and something that you could wear around. Say, yeah, I'm a part of this young adult ministry. I'm for something bigger than myself. I'm part of a greater community of other Christians, and I'm really proud of it. And the designs look fantastic. What's amazing was that probably more than 20 or 30% of the young adults ministry bought these t-shirts, which is a conversion rate that's absolutely unheard of in any other industry. In anywhere else, in any other context, a conversion rate that's 20 or 30% is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's off the charts. That's to say, for every 1,000 followers you have, you're selling to 200 or 300 of them. That is off the charts ridiculous. Like, it is actually unheard of. And it blew my mind, and I had to sit back and reflect, like, why does that work in this space? And I came to this conclusion that my church had built a community before selling them anything, right? And it's not that it's tough to draw this connection between church and your streetwear brand, because like church isn't building a community just to sell them something, right? They have a greater purpose beyond that. But I still hope that the point translates, and it's that they built a community first, very selflessly. They built a community that brought value to the members, brought value to the congregation, to those that were inside of this community. And because that brought so much value to all the people, so many of them, when there was something on Access to represent that community on their body in the form of a t-shirt that said, hey, I'm part of this community, and we're going for something bigger than ourselves. That is how you get the 20 or 30% conversion rate. It's by being so selfless. And it doesn't work just to say like, oh, I'm going to go for a 20%, 30% conversion rate. I'm going to pretend to be selfless. I like to think of it like this. The best way to appear selfless to your audience is to actually be it. The best way to appear humble is to actually be humble. Right? So the best way to actually care about your customers is to actually care. And so I think my encouragement in all of this and my reflection is, go out there, build an actual community that's worth building. Build something that you can look back on at the end and go, yeah, I'm happy. This is worth time and effort, and this goes beyond the money. And that's what I think leaving a legacy is about. I often hear talk of the idea of a heritage brand, and that being a brand that exists. It's a movement that goes beyond the founder, that lasts, that leaves a legacy, that continues on after even the first generation dies out. And it's so beautiful. And Simon Sinek, I'm a massive fan. He's a motivational speaker and businessman. He writes books. You might have heard of them. Start With Why, The Infinite Game. In The Infinite Game, he speaks about the fact that business is an infinite game. You can't win it. It just keeps going, and players sometimes enter and players leave, but it keeps going, and it keeps going after you're here and after your business is here. And so it's not about winning. It's not about being the best, and it's not even about competition. It's about worthy rivals, and it's about creating something that lasts, that outlasts even your own lifetime. And for many, even myself, it's a really abstract thought, because man, what the heck does it even mean to create something that goes beyond my lifetime? But I think it's really important that if you can, like, I don't mean, maybe this idea of really big picture scares you. I don't mean for it to, but even just think about like this. If you can create something that is just worth creating, that impacts one life, that is something that can have an impact beyond your lifetime, that can have a generational impact, that is starting a movement. And I think there's something really valuable about that, something worth creating. And so that's what gets me really passionate about creating brands that aren't just businesses, but are communities. And are communities that are movements for a positive message, right? And it doesn't have to be mental health. It doesn't have to be sustainability. It can be your own thing. Right? It could be a group of skaters that are here just to support each other, right? That's something. It could be like a brotherhood inside that. It could be about sport. It could be about overcoming challenges. It could be about getting outside your comfort zone. It could be about exploring the outdoors. It doesn't matter. The point is, I really just challenge you today. Consider what are you creating that goes beyond yourself? What's the community you're creating? I want to take this opportunity as I'm drawing to an end of this little reflection today to tell you a bit about my community that I'm creating, and it's how I really am wanting to make a difference going forward in the world of streetwear fashion in Australia and internationally. And it's through this community called Streetwear 365, and it has one very simple goal: to help you turn your passion into a career. Because I know there's a lot of people, you might be you listening to this podcast, that, well, you work a day job and you dream of working in your streetwear brand full time. Maybe you have a mission, you have a community that you want to build, and it's going to help you build that all the more by being in it full time and doing it like that. And I want to help you get there by sharing the little I know about streetwear marketing I don't talk about product creation that often. I have other people in the community that do, because I'm not an authority to speak on that. However, I do know a little bit about marketing, and I talk about that. So if that is something that is even remotely interesting to you, it's 100% free to join. There is a link below wherever you are consuming this podcast, and you can go and join the community for free. All I ask for is your email. I use that to send you some more valuable materials and communications if need be, but there is no email retargeting, no spam, and definitely I do not misuse that. 100% privacy guarantee also on that, but it's 100% free to join, and it's really worth your while if you are looking at turning your passion into a career. So please do consider joining my project, in my little thing that I believe is part of my legacy that I'm leaving behind. Hopefully, maybe I can be a part of one of these brands that does something really great, something big. I'm talking Supreme big. I'm talking Nike big. I really believe in you, and I really believe in your brand, and I believe that you can do it if you believe in yourself. So again, excuse my sickness, excuse my voice. It's going out towards the end of this podcast. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Elijah Delport, and I'll see you next week for another podcast.